Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So, starting off this video with more work on Dave's car. And what I have here is the beginnings of his belly pan. So the purpose of a belly pan on a drag car is to give some sort of a containment reservoir on the underside of the engine in case something fails, a rod or something comes through the oil pan, and to try to help prohibit some of that oil from making its way onto the ground, both to make the track cleanup easier and to keep oil off of the back tires, so that way you don't go for an undesired and unintended ride. So that is what I have began crafting here, and I have this outside frame piece or perimeter piece all bent up and all fit up, and I got to use a new to me tool, and I've had it for a little bit but you guys have not seen it yet. But this is a bar and strip stock bender. So pretty easy, you slide whatever piece that you're working on through it this way or however you have it indexed, and then just pull along and it'll bend around this center peg. So I use that to bend all of the corners for this, and I'm pretty happy that this perimeter piece is two pieces. So we have one piece going around there, a second piece right here to make up this little difference right here, and move this to the ground, and you can see on this piece of aluminum sheet right here I have the perimeter marked out on it and ready to cut. Dave's belly pan is all welded up, and now I have to figure out how to mount it on the car. So the front side should be pretty simple since he has this tube lower core support. I can come in, drill a couple of holes, put rib nuts in, and that will hold the front side. The rear side will be a little bit more difficult as there aren't really any good locations on the back that I can see, at least right now, that would be sufficient to mount it there, at least not factory holes or anything. So I'll have to figure out something, and hopefully I don't have to get too crafty for it, but I'll figure it out. That's part of this welding and fabrication, this part of the game with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started figuring out how to mount Dave's new belly pan. Dave is now the proud owner of a completed belly pan. So this is the finished product, and I'm really happy with how it came out. The frame being 2 pieces, and the front mount, I used just some aluminum angle channel, drilled a couple of holes, welded it the whole way around so that's nice and strong. The back side, we have 2 mounting tabs complete with triangular gussets and speed holes, as is tradition. And the whole thing is on there, nice and solid, and it covers as much of the area underneath of the engine as I could possibly cover. So if anything ever happens to this engine while Dave's making a hit, that should help contain any oil or debris that's coming out of the engine and help to keep him safe. So now that this is completed, we can move to the top side again and wrap up the last outstanding bits on that side. So now that Dave's intake tube is constructed, I need to go ahead and build a mount for it. And the mount will come off of the side of the tube around here and go down to this stud on the chassis right there. So pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. I'll do my normal speed hold, gussets, and all of that. But this shouldn't be all that bad to get squared away. So without further ado, let's go ahead, get this bracket knocked out, and then we can move on to the final portion of this project. Since this bracket will be plainly visible in the engine bay, I want to apply a nice surface finish to it so it's just that much more aesthetically appealing. And what I'm going to use to do that is this guy right here. So if you guys have paid attention, I've used this once before in a video, but I never touched base on what it actually is. So this is from Harbor Freight, and it's a surface conditioning tool, as you can see right there. Whoops. And I guess you can see the model number and everything on the side. So what this thing does, or what its purpose is it has this big flap wheel essentially, or this big sanding drum. And as I turn the tool on, you can see that it spins, and you can also control the speed at which this spins. And you simply hold this abrasive wheel against a piece that you're working on, and it puts a nice surface finish on it. So these come with 3 different wheels. This is the finest abrasive out of the 3. And it also comes with this medium one that you can see right there is 120 grit, and then this one that looks like a cylinder hone essentially, that's 40 grit, and you can see stripping drum, or it's labeled as such right there. This is labeled finishing drum, and then the drum that is actually on the surface conditioning tool right now, like I said, it's the finest, and it applies the finest and smoothest surface finish to it. So I'm going to use this tool on this bracket to shine everything up, give it a nice uniform surface finish, make it look as pretty as I can before everything gets welded together. And just like that, Dave has a completed intake tube. And man, I am really happy with the way that it came out. So, going from front to back, I guess, we have a 4-inch velocity stack. And this is positioned right here as Dave is going to end up getting a headlight intake deal for this car. So that seemed like the most opportune and advantageous place to locate it. So beyond that, we have some 4-inch aluminum tubing snaking its way up to the compressor inlet. We have the fancy little bracket right there with speed holes and all of that. Ties into that stud off of the chassis right there. Have a BPA logo because why not? And everything's fastened down. Everything is good in place, and everything looks simple yet intentional, which is exactly what I was going for. So now that the intake tube is completed, we can move on to the final piece of this puzzle, which is mounting the ignition coils. And we got lucky enough that we have a good solution for this. So right here, we have a Razier CNC. It's a universal 4-coil IGN-1A coil bracket setup. So Richie from Razier, as you guys can see his contact information right there, he reached out to me and said, hey, I see that you're working on a pretty cool SRT-4. Is there anything that I can help you guys with? And I reached out to Dave, showed him the products that Richie offers, and Dave determined that he was interested in one of these coil brackets. So I let Richie know, and Richie got one of these sent out to us very quickly. And this comes with everything that you need to house the coils, and then this is a universal bracket, so I need to build some sort of a mounting plate for this bracket to mount to, but this will hold the 4 ignition coils that will be powering or providing spark for Dave's car. So I'll need to pop this out of the bag, obviously, start figuring out how I need to shape and form the mounting plate for it. And I think what I'm going to do, there are still 2 more threaded holes on the side of the cylinder head, and I can use those threaded holes to house that bracket, and that will place everything in a good position where building the plug wires will be easy. They kind of just wrap around and go to the 4 holes right there through the valve cover. And rather than mounting it in the factory place, which this Mopar SRT plate is sitting in the factory coil location, we're not going to be cooking the coils right next to the hot turbine housing. We'll keep it over on the side of the head, keep the coils a little bit cooler, a little bit happier, and make this thing run without issue that way. And just like that, we have another project in the books. So Dave's car was a fairly aluminum-centric project, and actually thinking about it now, I think that everything that was done on this thing was all in aluminum. So between the intake, the intercooler tubes, modifying the intake manifold, modifying the intercooler, the belly pan, and even this bracket, or this mounting plate for the coil bracket, everything was aluminum. And frankly, it was a good thing to have a big aluminum project like this so I could brush up on my aluminum skills. But this car, like I said at the beginning of this series, has a lot of sentimental value, obviously to Dave, but even to me here at the shop, as I think it was 5 years or so ago, this car was the beginning of my SRT-4 top mount manifold program. And it's just crazy to see after all this time, Dave still going full bore at this thing and making it into the Mona Lisa of SRT-4s, as I've kind of coined that name at this point in time. But the project came out very well. Dave's happy with it. I'm happy with it. And I cannot wait to see this thing up and going, out in the sun, making hits, so on and so forth. And hopefully he can keep this thing as beautiful as it is now, as it sees actual duty and actual service as a race car. So again, a huge thank you to Richie over at Razier CNC for sending out this coil bracket, and everything fits up perfectly. And I will link him and link Razier in the pinned comment below. He offers a variety of different IGN-1A coil brackets, and this is obviously the 4-coil stacked bracket. He has a 4-coil flat bracket, and I think that he has 3-coil ones. He may have 6-coil ones, so on and so forth. And if there is not what you are looking for, or if he doesn't have it in his catalog, I believe he will work with you to get you exactly the bracket that you need. So, with all of that being said, and like I said, another project in the books and another build series completed, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in, for coming along on this crazy journey with me. A huge thank you to Dave for giving me the opportunity to work on this car, and for working with me on the Mark II's engine bay. Now that we have his car squared away and all the stuff done there, we can go ahead and finish up working on the Mark II's engine bay, get it squared away, and I can begin reassembly on that thing. So, lots going on here, and I'll be excited to, not that I want to see this car go, but I'll be excited to get my bay back so I can bump the Mark IV over here and get to work on the next phase of that. So I guess I can give you guys a sneak peek of that next phase, and I've been purposefully avoiding this side of the shop over here to not show this part off, but let's do a little sneak peek teaser deal. So this right here is from MazFab, and this is a carbon drag wing for Mark IV Supras. And this is obviously just the main portion of the wing. You have the side winglet pieces in this foam right here. You have the rear wicker portion right there, all the hardware, everything else. And we'll get into that more in the next video when I actually get to installing that thing. So I cannot wait for that, can't wait to get it put on there. And as soon as that is put on, then we can start getting the parachutes on, get that squared away, and we'll be ready to go make a hit with that, with the Mark IV in the very near future. But again, with all of that being said, and before I ramble on forever, that'll be the end of this one. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, check out the website for manifolds, for merch, for all things good that way, and I will see you guys in the next episode.